episode of the Cozy Corner of Cinema. This is episode number 210, being recorded on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026, on a chilly evening. It's wild. It was a beautiful sunny day a couple days ago, nice warm weather, people driving with the windows down, they had their t-shirts on, and then today's the day we're layering back up. We even had a bit of snow early in the morning. I tell you, the winds got so violent. It was like a scene out of Satan Tango or something. You just saw everything flying, and at that point, you basically had to hold on to your hat for dear life in fear of it flying off into the distance. But we're inside now, which is great. And the cats seem to be enjoying themselves. They don't have any apprehension about the cold. They're moving around, jumping around, being very active. So that's what we like to see. But we're continuing on with my favorite films of the century so far. Not a whole lot to report on this week, or at least not a whole lot that I want to hold up the episode with. So we're just going to go right into the first film for today's episode. And next up on my favorite films of the 21st century, my 20 favorites, is from Kinji Fukasaku from 2000. It's his film Battle Royale, based off the manga of the same name. Now, I'm not familiar with the manga. I've only seen the film. I've seen both the theatrical and the director's cut, as well as having seen Battle Royale 2, Requiem, which was directed by his son. Although, to my knowledge, I believe he started directing Battle Royale 2 and then passed away during filming, and his son took over. That's what I believe it is. Yeah, Kinji Fukasaku and Kenta Fukasaku. Battle Royale, I think, is a pretty known film. When anytime there is a discussion about people who are pitted against each other in films to their death, it is Battle Royale definitely comes up in the conversation. I don't know when the manga was published. I don't actually know how many issues of the manga there are, but Battle Royale takes place in the future, takes place in Japan, and every year one class in a high school, are forced to be pitted against each other. They're knocked out, put on a remote island sanctioned by the government, and have bombs strapped around their neck. Essentially, what it is they have to kill each other until there is only one left, and if they don't kill each other by the allotted time, then the bombs will go off. And I think what Kinji Fukasaku does that makes the film, one of the things that at least makes the film so exceptional, is when you have such an array of characters, you have such an array of actors, it's very easy to kind of get lost in the shuffle and lost in the mix. But the film appropriately gives a fair amount of time to many of the main characters. We start to understand some of the motivations, some of the rivalries, some of the civil war that is going on with these classmates. Now, I don't remember exactly who was who, so I do apologize for that. But essentially, whenever we have a film like this, we'll typically follow maybe one or two characters or so, and here, because we're jumping around to so many different characters, it makes the stakes even that much higher. We get a great emotional start from the beginning of the film with the character played by Tetsuya Fujiwara. I'm going to get some of these names wrong, so I do apologize. But he plays the character of Shuya, I believe Shuya. I don't even know why I bother trying to pronounce these names, but he's the closest that we have to a main character. He is with this other girl. I forgot their relationship. I think the other girl was either a friend or it was someone involved with someone that he liked, and I do apologize. Again, like I said, I intentionally did not rewatch any of these films, but I actually did, funnily enough, just rewatched this a couple months ago theatrically, and funnily enough, I had eaten some food beforehand and felt very sick during the film. I was just, man, I got a real bad stomach ache, and even in that state, I was so engaged with the film. Some of the other actors that pop up, Chiaki Kuriyama, who would pop up later in Kill Bill. She plays the leader. I forget if she was the leader, but she's a very distinct looking actress. She was the schoolgirl character Go-Go in Kill Bill, and she has a good meaty role in this. And we, like I said before, we learn about some people who have more knowledge about the events or about the competition. Some of the other students are trying to find a way to get the bombs off of their necks, and it's a really solid, very emotional film, very violent film as well, but not gratuitously violent, which is something that it very could have easily have done when you're dealing with teenagers going to kill each other. It is violent, and at times it's unpleasant with just the fear in these kids. And like there's one part in particular, one girl is cornered, and you just kind of see the fear in her eyes that one of the other characters is almost kind of getting off on, targeting the weaker kids. And and it's interesting. They all start off with these bags that have a map on it and a random weapon that can range from anywhere of a gun to a frying pan to something that is just completely not gonna help you at all in that situation. But of course, can't talk about this without talking about Beat Takashi, who plays the teacher, and we cut back to him, Beat Takashi Kitano, a very famous Japanese actor, back with the rest of the government agents, or the government, the military agents, I should say. He's the one who looks over the field. He's the one who makes the daily announcements of who's alive and who's dead. You really feel kind of the sense of time really starting to tick down when more and more people are still alive, and it's really a matter of what is going to be the actual conclusion of this. Who is actually going to make it out of this film, if anyone? We see right at the beginning of the film, this young kind of girl. I don't remember if she was actually supposed to be in high school or not. She looked a lot younger than that, but covered in blood, and this delirious kind of smile on her face, showing just sort of the brutality that these people will go to. You can only imagine the horrors that this character went to. But what makes the film, I think, truly stand out, like I said at the start of it, are the characters. The fact that you actually have an investment with the characters. And funnily enough, at one point, I would say I preferred the director's cut of this film. The director's cut, to my knowledge, I've only ever seen it once, but it includes some flashbacks with some of the characters in their personal life, and I think people generally prefer the theatrical cut. But from what I remembered, I think the flashbacks with some of the characters added a bit more emotion into, at least more of a background to them. It's not make or break, because even on this past viewing, I had forgot about the flashbacks in the director's cut, and it didn't affect how invested I was in the story, in these characters. And because we have such an investment with the characters, that even the violence that isn't gratuitous, even though it is bloody and it's unpleasant, it's more about us being weighed. The emotion of it is more weighed than anything gratuitous. Because yeah, you can look at it and see characters being stabbed or shot, but when you have an actual investment with these characters, the stakes, the emotional stakes, feel so much higher, which feels kind of redundant to say. But when there's been, when you look at, I guess what a contemporary American, comparison would be, it looks something like the Hunger Games, which, I don't quite agree with Tarantino going on about that being a ripoff. I mean, the two are so different that share the one kind of main plot thread. But in the Hunger Games, and I haven't read those books either, but I've seen the films. And I think a problem they have with that, among other things, is that you don't really care about any of the other characters. They're aside from it being so watered down, so polished, so PG-13. I mean, they're not going to make this a rated R film, and it's not the same audience as somebody like Hunger Games. But there's never ever a sense of danger in those movies. There's one moment in the first one I think is pretty solid. It's when Jennifer Lawrence's character first goes up through the tunnel, and it's a very sunny day, and it's this feeling of anxiety of there's a bunch of weapons in the center of the field. Everybody's got to go at them. That's one moment that I went, ooh, that's actually a good scene. But once she makes it out of there, you know she's not going to get hurt. You know she's going to make it out of there fine. There's no risk. There's no emotional turmoil. You're just waiting to get to the conclusion of it. And it's so obvious who's going to get killed. And I don't mean to bring it up. I don't mean to compare it to that. But what I am saying is that it's night and day between this. There feels like so much danger in this. You really can't predict, or you really can't get to a good idea of the conclusion because anything could happen. One person could survive, many can survive, no one can survive. I mean, ultimately, there has to be winners and losers in this. But where the conclusion goes to is far more emotional, especially with Takeshi Kitano's character. There's just one sequence in particular that I don't want to say, but it's sort of him alone with another character, and there's really no dialogue, but it's just so emotional, and it just feels so heavy, and it really encapsulates the whole film of just how dangerous, how occasionally kind of comical it can be, how frightening it can be, how well directed it is. I mean, the action as well in this is very well directed, which is funny. That's also a major difference between this and the Hunger Games. I think Hunger Games is one of the also, if you can hear the cat's kind of jumping around, it's one of the worst directed Hollywood movies I think I've ever seen. I mean, there are just some sequences in that I mean, my gosh, man, what were they possibly thinking with some of that directing? This is the superior in every way. This is the at times comical, dangerous, frightening, tense. Overall, very emotional film. I don't mean to repeat myself, but I really want to hit that point home of just how strongly these characters are written and how well they balance off of one another. So, total masterpiece. And I guess just briefly with Battle Royale 2 Requiem, was it needed? Absolutely not. I won't actually go too much into Battle Royale 2 because, if you have not seen the first one, then I'm not going to get into the specifics of the ending of the first one. But, for what it was, I think they did do something different. They tried to build the world of this. I don't know what is taken from the manga and what was made for the film. I think it might be a little overhated. I definitely do not think it is terrible. It's the biggest problem is that it's just not needed. There's just not really, the danger is not there. The characters are not as interesting. It's not a duplicate of the film. They very could have easily have just done that again, but it's just fine. If you're already a fan of Battle Royale, I think as a curiosity, it is worth a watch. I've seen it once, and I didn't have any strong opinions of it, positively or negatively. It is unnecessary, but definitely not terrible. But Battle Royale is a masterpiece. So we're going to go from there to a film by Christopher Nolan. Nolan, who has made many exceptional films. On the show, I talked about how strongly I felt about Oppenheimer. I thought it was a breath of fresh air among contemporary big Hollywood films that does not have to dumb itself down for the audience, does not need to spoon feed the morals or the point of the film. Its morals are very ambiguous, very complicated. And of course, The Prestige is a terrific film as well. Funnily enough, his least interesting stuff, I feel, are his Batman movies. I don't really care about Batman as a character. I think The Dark Knight is a very well done film, but Batman Begins, and especially The Dark Knight Rises, I just have no connection to. I don't find them very fascinating as films. I find them The Dark Knight Rises to be a very dull film, easily his worst. But needless to say, my favorite of his, unquestionably, the one that I think stands miles above the rest of his filmography and a total masterpiece, is Dunkirk, 2017. For one, it's Nolan's shortest film, maybe not counting Following, which runs at about an hour. It's his shortest, and I think that works to his benefit because it's his most focused. Everything in the film feels razor tight. It feels just so sharp. Some of my issues that I have with Nolan's films is I definitely think he stumbles in the third act, even on films that of his I like. Interstellar, I think, stumbles in the third act. Oppenheimer, the pacing is off in the third act. The Prestige, the reveal in the third act is so obvious that I'm shocked that it was even up for. I'm surprised anybody even didn't see it coming. Dunkirk does not have that problem. Dunkirk is a great three-hander. That doesn't make any sense. It's a great three-part look told in Nolan style, out of order, or at least not in the exact same time frame. You get the story of soldiers trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk, or on the beach of Dunkirk in Belgium. Oh no, I'm sorry. Or was it in France? I do apologize. I don't remember. Anyways, the army is surrounding them. They are trapped on the beach, and it is an open jail cell. They are stuck on the beach, being picked off by the air. They are trapped there. So the Germans can basically come in whenever they want and just kind of gun them down. There's so many of them. The opening scene sets up such a great feeling of intensity for the film, because we follow, at least in this case, this one main character, Tommy, played by Fionn Whitehead, who I don't think has a line of dialogue in the film, and I think that works to the film's benefit. Because even after he just narrowly escapes this tense situation, the realism of it starts to come in, where everything is moving so fast and everything is moving at such a what's the word I'm looking for? It's moving at such an intensity that there's really no time to react. At this point, when he gets to the beach in the beginning of the film, his main priority is just going to the bathroom, and then from there we see many of the other. We see Kenneth Branagh, one of Nolan's regulars, or was it just this and Tenet that he was in? I don't remember. But he is the leader of that battalion. I think he was the leader. My war vocabulary is not. I'm not the. I'm not most accurate in who was doing what. But we follow him, who's actually on land, Mark Rylance, and his son, as well as one of the neighbors on his boat going to the beach, as well as Cillian Murphy, Nolan regular there, who ends up becoming as big of a problem as them trying to get to, well, I should say almost as big of a problem, trying to while they're trying to get to the beach. And then Tom Hardy by the air, who actually more so than anything, an enemy plane that is trying to get him down is causing a thorn in his side, preventing him from even getting to the beach. And it's all in identical time and not at the same time. We'll see flashbacks that we don't know are flashbacks. We will see events that are happening at a different time that will all line up together. It's basically like three different highways that are eventually going to meet right in the middle, and even past then some. I've heard the criticism of this film that I don't agree with about, I think, the lack of characterization, and I don't think that the film has time for that. Maybe if it was longer, it would be, but ultimately, we just have a face. We have this character, Tommy, who is basically the face of these soldiers, as well as his other character, who I think was played by Aneurin Barnard, who they think there's something up with him. They think that there's something peculiar up with him, but things are moving so fast. We don't even really care or have time to get into these backstories. It doesn't matter how they got there. It doesn't matter where they came from or what their backstory is, which is ironic. It's funny just talking about Battle Royale and you're dealing with all these characters and you're dealing with the emotion of these characters. And this film has its own kind of emotion because you'll just get these sequences of just total terror, of just visceral terror, of just rapid fire, no pun intended, just gunshots and whizzing past the camera. The audio is just so frightening. There's moments of violence that are just so brutal that are off screen, where there's a scene where a boat drowns and we just hear the screaming of all these soldiers in the background, and it's just so frightening. And it's something that you really don't even, I think a lot of war films don't even really pay attention to. When you have these many actors in the film and you just see the brutality, you just see the quantity of people that are being killed, and you don't even fully take it in. And these characters don't fully take it in as well. Like I said, when when he gets to the beach, what's his first thought is to go to the bathroom. When he just narrowly escapes being killed, by gunfire, by drowning, what's his priority? To just find a safe place, get back to the beach. There's really no time for these characters to dwell on it. And even at the end of the film, when things start looking up, there really is no time. And I think that's one of the benefits of the film when it comes to speaking of time is that it for a movie that is almost 2 hours, it feels very lean. There feels like there is no fat on this thing. It is constantly moving, and there is a constant sense of dread going on here. The score as well has to be pointed out. The score with the ticking of a like a stopwatch. I should also say Hans Zimmer does the score for this, and there are just long sequences with no dialogue where that score is just pumping through, and they're running on the beach, and all you're hearing is this kind of like this of the score with the ticking, this urgency, this is gotta go, and the problems that come with that, the problems of just trying to get out of this one area, as massive as it may seem. And I think a film like this from Nolan is kind of something that I missed compared to some of his other stuff. A film like this or The Prestige, I think is when Nolan really and Oppenheimer as well. Oppenheimer, it is still a bigger film in scope, but I think what Nolan does so well is the character stuff. Something that I think is kind of absent from some of his films, sometimes intentionally so. Like, it doesn't bother me in something like Tenet that the characters are essentially the protagonist, the antagonist, because that's the point of the film is not the characters. It is about these characters being vessels for the plot, and I am completely fine with that. But with something like this, I think he just handles these people, these characters so well, and to not get lost in the machinations of the scope of it. Because, yeah, the scope of the film is there. We are seeing these great, extraordinary action sequences that are very tense, that really take its time. The sequences of Tom Hardy where he's shooting at the other guy in the plane, and the other guy shooting at him. It's not just boom, boom, boom. It's a lot of just positioning yourself, and even the same thing with Mark Rylance. All that stuff going on. The some of the more I don't want to say action sequences there because it's really not that. But when Mark Rylance is dealing with the chaos that's happening inside the ship and outside of it, it feels so intimate. It feels so tense as well that I think Nolan does kind of get lost from sometimes, and that's why I'm a little worried about the Odyssey, which is I am looking forward to it at the time, and when you've listened to this, the future, it's already up, but I am a little concerned about some of those characters just getting lost in the shuffle on that, which is Oppenheimer was just so great because it's called Oppenheimer for a reason and not just the bomb or Hiroshima or anything like that. Because it's really that's also secondary to what is going on. This character, I say character, but real person. This person who has these conflicted, changing feelings about his country, about serving his country, about that's a whole other conversation right there. But Oppenheimer feels. I don't know if we want to say the natural kind of companion piece to Dunkirk. 'Cause I think that is a different kind of film overall. That is, but as well, that is jumping a lot in time. The narrative of that film is intentionally out of order often, and Dunkirk is as well, but not as much to the point where when you can still. There is really no ambiguity in terms of being able to follow it, ABC. Not saying that Oppenheimer is, but it's just a different kind of way that story is told. It's lean, it's mean. It feels like you're just running and running, and then by the time it's over, when you have the when you have the conclusion of the film, it feels like you're finally able to take a breath. Even the score that settles in, it's very, it's very. I don't want to say relaxed, but it's so different than the rest of the film. Where now it's like you can take a breather, now you can finally settle it all in, and there's one piece of dialogue at the end of the film for something that's very light on dialogue. There's one line kind of summing up the entire experience with these men that the Harry Styles character says to this man who is handing out food and stuff. What the man says, I don't remember the exact quote, so I'm not going to say it. And also, it's better to kind of hear it from in the film yourself. But it really kind of sums up the whole film. I would love to see Nolan do another kind of, film like this. Because I think this is one where, yeah, the money is there on screen. It's definitely big budget, primarily when you have these, giant kind of aerial action sequences and all that. But more importantly, I think just the emotion of the characters in this. And that's why, like I said before, that's why I think I responded so strongly to Oppenheimer. It's just, and I know these are all real people. I'm saying characters in the context of the film, but the characters are just so engaging, and there's so much more going on than a film about getting off of the beach, or a film about the creation and use of the atomic bomb. I think Nolan's just such a smart filmmaker. I think he's just such a strong writer in that sense. That even something like this that's lighter on dialogue, I'm still getting a lot out of these characters. So Dunkirk is one of his is the film of his I've seen the most. I've seen it I don't know how many times now, and it's one that of all of his work has grown on me the most, because the first time that I saw it theatrically, and I didn't see this in IMAX, I saw it on a regular screen. As much as I love IMAX, as much as I love the format, I'm definitely a believer that IMAX does not save a film. It just makes a great film even better. So if I had seen Oppenheimer on a regular screen, I can still confidently say that is a great film. It just so happens that the IMAX photography is just so gorgeous. And so, anyways, with this film, I had seen it theatrically once on a regular screen, and I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was great. I just thought I was going to. I actually saw it again theatrically with my father because he wanted to see it. And I thought, okay, I'll see it again. And even that time, I said, okay, this is good, but it is not sticking really with me. The flaws in it are very noticeable. At least what used to be an issue for me. And then it's one that the more I just thought about it, the more I watched it, the more I really kind of could see the strong filmmaking, the way he handles these characters, the way that he handles intensity in scenes without much dialogue, without characters having to say, without having to say much, where you just simple actions. Like, you just see a character who is taking another character's dead man's boots, and there is no, hey, what are you doing there? Oh, this and that. It's just characters kind of going by, and the something like that is so minuscule compared to the overall bigger picture. And then that's the final moment of the film. I won't, no spoilers or anything like that, but I just love when the music cuts to black, and then there's just one final shot, and then we just cut to black again, kind of like a sigh of relief of just, wow, this journey that we've been on it feels like, in the context of the film, it's not, I guess, as long. It's either an hour or a day or whatever. But because we're just running and running and going and going, that moment of relief, it just feels so much better. It's like a cold drink on a hot day. Just whew, wow. Yeah, unquestionably my favorite of Nolan's films. Like I said, I think this is absolutely his masterpiece. I think this is probably my favorite war film of the 21st century so far. And there's been plenty of just really terrific ones. Fury, 1917, All Quiet on the Western Front. But Dunkirk is the one that I have found myself going back to again and again, for the reasons that I said before. So, terrific film. Just Nolan's, like I said, it's Nolan's masterpiece. But that'll do it for this episode. Just again, two films. Thoughts were a little scatterbrained. I do apologize. It's been a very busy day, but I wanted to at least get the episode out and talk a little bit about these films. So there we go. Another two in the bag. We're at, 6 films so far. You still got plenty to go, and plenty to go we will do. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I will be back next time. So take care. Work on your arts, make your dreams come true, be a comedian, whatever you want to do. Just make sure you do it 100%.